We don't want to take the power away from the child. So we just create the space for the child to learn and honor that space. Protect that space. That's the way I grew up. And you know, by age 6, I had the ability to not have a single thought in my head. Not a word come through my head. And I can do that for hours. Starting at 6 years old. But before I did that, I was watching these hunters. You know, we would go out with 5 or 6 hunters, and we'd be waiting for the sea lion to come by, and the horizon is like 180 degrees. Remember, we're on an island, so we're just like water in this direction. And pretty soon somebody would say, "Kawakako!" And instantly, without the person who said that pointing, everyone in the same instant would look at the same spot on the water. Nobody's pointing. And then when you look, you can't see the sea lion. It's still like 10 miles away. It's out of visible range. But yet, when we stay looking, you know, I'm watching the hunters, and they keep looking at one spot, and sure enough, after about 20 minutes to a half hour, the sea lion head shows up. And I thought that was really magic, you know, as a kid. Really magic. How could they even know? And then nobody says, nobody points, but yet they all look at one spot. And sure enough, that spot, the sea lion comes up. Then I also noticed something very interesting about these hunters. You know, I'd sit out there and wait, and for hour after hour, and by noon, you know, 5 years old, 6 years old, you get kind of daydreaming, and you kind of doze off sometimes, you know, because of the rhythm of the water, and smell of the fresh air, and feel of the wind, and you just want to go on. But the hunters never did. They would sit there for hours without hardly saying anything, and they would never get dozy. How could that be? So it's like two magical things for me at 6 years old. Figured, oh boy, these hunters are magical. But I found out how they did it when I was 6. Because one of the things that I was given that very few children have today is a freedom to roam the island at will, without curfew. My obligation was just simply to make sure that I stay safe. And the adults, if I'm around in an unsafe situation, will ask me to move away from the unsafe situation. But nobody will tell me, you know, I had no curfew. I had freedom, free reign on the whole island. And I love the fact that we had 2.5 million seabirds, and underneath these cliffs there would be tens of thousands. Can you imagine? Tens of thousands of birds. And I'm fascinated. I'm just like, yo, wow. And so I would walk out at 3 o'clock in the morning just so I can be there before when the birds wake up, when the sun rises at 6 o'clock. Yeah. Because I wanted to be there. They're so beautiful. They're so alive. And they make all these sounds. Can you imagine 10,000 birds, right? And there's murres, thick-billed murres, common murres, red-faced cormorants, pelagic cormorants, horned and tufted puffin, and least auklets and crested auklets and fulmars. Ooh, there's all these different birds. And so I would just go underneath the cliff and wait for them to wake up. And when they wake up, they go around in a circle. And they kind of wait to collect other members of their species before they go foraging out in the Bering Sea. And so I'd sit there, and they'd be like fly within inches of me. You know, can you imagine? They're totally oblivious to my presence, or they were aware of my presence but didn't feel like I was threatened. And so I'm watching these birds, and some of them are going diagonal up this way, diagonal that way, some going left, some going right. And some of them going in circles upwards, some of them are descending really fast downwards, different species, different speeds. Can you imagine the cacophony of sounds? The sounds of 10,000 birds underneath the cliff. Woo! That's heady stuff, you know. I really got off on it. But then I started to think, wow, 10,000 birds and not one of them are clipping a wing? They're in this apparent chaos and flying in every direction at different speeds, at different heights. 10,000 birds and nobody's clipping a wing. My 6-year-old mind says, how could they do that? So I decided that the only way I could figure that out is I'm going to become a bird. Yep. My 6-year-old mind. Okay, I'm going to become a bird. What do birds do that I'm not doing? Birds don't think. No. They have intelligence, and I recognize that intelligence. They have keen intelligence, but they don't think. They're not worried about yesterday. They're not worried about where they're going to get their food tomorrow. You know, they're just there. And they're alive. And they're just like, whoo, you know, their heads move like that. They're really fast. And they move fast. Have you ever watched these little birds here, the songbirds, how they can move through the trees? You know, just flicked 50 feet and they don't hit not a limb. Wow. What kind of intelligence is that? So I decided, okay, I'm not going to think. Yeah. I didn't hear stories about it, you know, because we're not given instruction. We're not told what is to be done. I just decided on my own, intuitively. I said, okay, I'm not going to think. And so I actually got to that point as a child. I didn't think. And I felt like the bird. And then when I went out with the hunters, I started to notice the magic happen, because when I didn't think and I was just present right here, right now, I could feel the sea lion coming.